All right, today we're in Polynomials Lesson 3, Special Products. Okay, so like we just said, FOIL is going to work, but if I can recognize the special binomial, then I actually don't need FOIL. There's a shorter way to do it. So a binomial is a polynomial with how many terms in it? Two terms in it, okay? So these special products only work on binomials. They don't work on trinomials. So what is the method we use to multiply two binomials? It's the acronym used, FOIL. FOIL is the method that we use. Okay, FOIL. What method did we use to multiply the binomial and the trinomial? Remember we drew our arrow? Distributive property. Okay, I used distributive property to multiply the binomial and the trinomial. Okay, so FOIL and distributive property, that's what we learned yesterday. All right, so what method would you use to solve this problem? Just, you could even just turn anywhere in your notes just to work this one real quick. Your homework section, you're not going to need that whole page, so you could work the problem there. All right, which method would you use? Which method would you use here, guys? Distributive, or what we call FOIL. You would use the FOIL method to solve this problem. I want you guys to go ahead and try to complete this on your own. All right, use FOIL to solve. Hey guys, what do we do first? Y'all walk me through this. Come on, let's go. What do we do first? X times X. I multiply the first terms together. That's my F in FOIL. X times X is? X squared, okay? Because remember, when I'm multiplying my X's, I would add my exponents. If there's nothing there, they are understood ones. Okay, now I do my outside terms. What's X times negative 5? Negative 5X. O for outside. Then I multiply my inside terms. What's 6 times X? 6X. Okay. Then I multiply my last terms. What's 6 times negative 5? Negative 30. Okay. Now I can combine like terms. Does that mean that I can just add everything together? No. What can I combine? Negative 5 and positive 6 to get positive 1. Technically, don't even need the 1 in front of it, okay? And that's the FOIL method. And like I said, you could use FOIL on every single one of these concepts that I'm going to teach you today, but it's just going to take you longer. So if there is a shortcut, that would be helpful, right? So you're probably looking at this thinking, what in the world is going on here, okay? What does it mean to have the square of a binomial pattern? Well, if something has a pattern, you see something that is repeating, right? That's like a pattern, okay? So what's going to happen is you're going to have the same binomial being multiplied together. The same binomial being multiplied by itself. So what happens when you have the sum of, or the difference of a binomial being multiplied by itself? Here's what happens. You will square the first term, multiply and double the two terms together inside the binomial, and then you will square the second term. And that's it. There won't be any combining like terms. There won't be any of that. You'll see that when we work it in just a second. Then you have something called the difference of squares pattern. In this pattern, you will have an addition and a subtraction binomial that is the same exact number. It's just one is addition and one is subtraction. When that happens, you can square the first term, square the second term, and subtract them from each other. And that's it. That's going to be your answer. So what does this look like in an actual example or actual problems? Okay, it looks like this. All right. Now, first of all, I'm going to write you the equivalent. If I square something, do you agree that that means that expression times itself? Would you agree? That's the same thing. Okay? So if I'm squaring x plus 7, that means x plus 7 times x plus 7. You will not have to write this, but I'm going to use it to prove my point that you get the same answer either way. Okay? All right, so here we go. My rule says when I have a binomial repeating, meaning it's going to be multiplied by itself, here's what I can do. I can square the first term. What is the square of x? X squared. Square the first term. I can multiply the terms together and double it. What's 7 times x? 7x. All right, so when I double 7x, that means I'm multiplying 7x times 2. You're not going to have to write this, but I just want to visually show you. What is 7x times 2? Plus 14x. So what you need to understand is I multiplied these two terms together to get 7x, and I doubled it to make 14x. Just double it. There's a difference between doubling and squaring. Then my rule says I will square the last term. So what is 7 squared? What's 7 squared, guys? Plus 49. Now, I have a lot of extra handwriting here that is very simple to do mental math. So you're not going to necessarily have to write all of this, but I want to show you what's happening here. Okay? What if you had done FOIL? What's x times x if I multiply my first terms? X squared. Okay? What happens when I multiply my outside terms? What's x times 7? 7x. And then my inside terms, what's x times 7? What's 7x plus 7x? Oh, there we go. There's my 14x. And what happens when I multiply my last terms together? What's 7 times 7? 49. So if you had done FOIL, you would have ended up with the exact same answer. Okay? So now let me show you how the special products are in fact faster. All right? So my rule says that I will square my first term, which means I need to square every term in the first term. What's 4 squared?
4x squared.
Hold on. What's 4 squared? What's 4 times 4? 16x squared. Okay, there's my first term. Put it away, Marcus. I don't care. Put it away. I don't want to see your phones during the lesson. Okay, so 16 squared. Now you're going to multiply the two terms together. What's 4x times y? You're just going to put them together. 4xy. Okay, so when I multiply those together, I get 4xy, but then I double it. So what's 4 times 2? What's 4 times 2? Minus 8xy. Okay, so I multiply the two terms together, and then I double the number. So 4 times 2 is 8. And now I square my last term. What's y squared? I'm sorry, I just said it. Okay, so y times y is y squared. Now, a negative times a negative will also equal a positive. All right? So square the first term, multiply the two terms together, and double it, square the last term. And that's your answer. Now, if that confuses you, FOIL does still work. But if you can get the hang of these special products, it actually is a lot faster because most of this can be done mental math. All right, I want you to try the last one on your own. Okay, so we're just going to pause here for a minute. I want you to try the last one on your own. Okay, William, what did you get for your first term when you squared 3m? 9m squared. Kaylee, what did you get when you multiplied the two terms together? Hold on, I just lost my internet. All right, it's just going to take a second. What did you get, Kaylee, when you multiplied the two terms together and then doubled it? 6 6mn. Did you guys get that? 6mn. So it should have been plus 6mn. I can't pause my recording either until... Come on, internet. And then what did you get for your last term? Plus n squared. Oh, sad times. There we go. All right, plus n squared. I got my internet back. Just going to take a sec. All right, so plus... Oh, my word. Okay. All right, so 9m squared plus 6mn plus n squared. Did anybody get that right? Anybody get that right? Did you guys get that? If you missed it, do you see where you missed? Do you see where you went wrong? Okay. All right, so that's if you have one binomial it being squared, which means it's the exact duplicate. So what happens now if I'm multiplying two binomials and one is negative and one is positive? Would you agree that these two binomials are the exact same thing, both of them, except one is positive and one is negative? Would you agree? So what my rule says when that happens is the middle term is actually going to cancel out. I'm going to show you the long way first, the FOIL method. Okay, it's always good to practice FOIL anyway. So what happens when I do FOIL? So let's multiply our first terms together. What is x times x? X squared, right? X times x. What happens when I multiply my outside terms? What's x times 10? What's x times 10, guys? 10x plus 10x. What happens when I multiply my inside terms? What's negative 10 times x? Negative 10x. What happens when I multiply my last terms? What's negative 10 times positive 10? No, multiply. 10 times 10, guys. Negative 100. So here's what happens every time when this is what we call the difference. Okay? When one is positive and one is negative, your middle term will always cancel out. 10 minus 10 is 0. And all you're left with is the square of the first term minus the square of the second term. So if you recognize that you have the exact same binomial except one is positive and one is negative, your rule says square the first term, square the second term, and subtract the two of them, and you're done. Okay? So what happens when I square my first term on the second problem? What's the square of x? X squared, right? X squared minus, now you need to square your second term. Every term inside that term. So what is 3 squared? What's 3 squared, guys? 9. And what is y squared? It's y squared. You subtract the 2 and you're done. So if you notice that one is positive and one is negative, square your first term, square your last term, subtract the 2, and you're done. So you don't have to do all the process of the FOIL. You can just recognize that. All right, go ahead and do the last one. Kalani, what'd you get when you squared your first term? Well, what would you get when you square 2x? What would you get? Square each term or each number within the term. What's 2 squared? 4. And then you square x. Did you guys get 4x squared? Brody, did you get it? Micah? So all you're doing is squaring the first term, and then you're subtracting the square of your second term. What's 1 squared? 4x squared minus 1. That's it. Okay? So again, if you had done FOIL, multiply 2x times 2x, guess what? You would have got 4x squared. multiply the outside terms, then the inside terms, guess what? They would have canceled. They would have been opposite. 1 times -1 is -1. So it's just a shortcut to solving instead of using FOIL. But FOIL still works. It's better to use FOIL and do it the long way than to get it wrong. Okay? And that's everything you need to know for Lesson 3, Polynomials.